Good morning on this Sunday, September 17th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. Opponents of the Atlanta Police Training Facility dropped boxes of signed petitions off at Atlanta City Hall, which are now in a closet. Governor Brian Kemp suspends the state's gas tax once again, and Gwinnett County leaders are looking at another transit referendum, this time without a MARTA expansion. Alicia Thomas-Searcy is here filling in for Kathy Woolard. Phil, Theron, and Martha are all back. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
Opponents of the Atlanta Police Training Facility were celebrating as they delivered more than 100,000 signatures on a petition to force the issue on the ballot. That celebration turned into frustration as city leaders said they could not legally start to verify the signatures. Activists against the Atlanta Police Training Facility carried more than a dozen boxes into Atlanta City Hall. They say they have collected the signatures of 116,000 people who agree the facility should be put to a vote for Atlanta residents to decide. Then they learned there was a catch.
Well, we showed up here, we tried to hand in the boxes, and we got handed a sheet, a memorandum clearly written in advance, saying that they were going to receive the boxes, but they weren't going to start the verification process.
Our legal department's reading and allegedly the state's reading is that we technically can, it is illegal for us to verify signatures at this time because it is technically past the deadline.
That deadline was August 21st. A federal judge had ordered an extension to that deadline. Then an appellate court suspended that order in the beginning of September.
And if we cannot find justice in the courts, in the systems, all the things, then we're going to take it in the streets.
Opponents had to collect more than 58,000 valid signatures from registered Atlanta voters to move the issue forward. The city says it has to wait for a decision from the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to begin verifying signatures. Theron, to you first this week, because, this has really turned into quite a mess.
This is complicated, right?
Yes.
Well, Lori, I think your piece was excellent, and the thing that it highlighted for me was sort of twofold, right? You have these petitioners who have been out in the streets of Atlanta collecting these signatures, and they only need, I think, roughly 60 or 70,000. They
58,000.
Yeah, 58,000, and they turn in 116,000. Now, the question is, how many of those 116,000 are actually valid, right? And that's, I think, what the city's got to sort of do. But, Liliana, the councilwoman, said something that was very important, is that these petitioners turned in the petition days after. I think it was roughly almost 70 days after they were supposed to actually turn them in. And so now the city is in a posture like, okay, in good faith, we accepted the petitioner's request to do a petition. We accepted the signatures. But look, the law is the law, right? The state law says that no governing entity can actually administer a petition if it is actually exceeding the 60 days. And so what you saw is the city officials in good faith taking the signatures, and now the lower court has had that ruling, so now you have to see what the higher court is going to do. But I think Chief Sherbaum said something very important this week. I watched him in an interview, and he talked about how the petitioners, who have the right to express their First Amendment, were very frustrated with the process, but they said that these officers don't need training. And I agree with Chief Sherbaum when he says that all officers, these women and men, firefighters and first responders, we need training. Now, we can debate where the training facility can be, the cost of it, where, how was it transparent, but I think you cannot say that officers and firefighters and first responders in the city of Atlanta do not need the training. I think that the city council is going to have a big, tough task ahead.
Yeah, and Phil, there is a lot of legal wrangling going on now, and we're just kind of in a wait and see mode.
Well, we are, and I do also agree with Chief Sherbaum. We just had the anniversary of 9/11, in fact, and we know how great first responders were then. I think 25,000 people were actually saved, according to what happened on 9/11 in New York City. I will say this, I think that Judge Mark Cohen, who made the original ruling, he should have said, as we're Monday morning quarterbacking here, he should have said, no, wait, stop, you have to start all over again collecting the signatures. I think that would have helped, but it is a mess. I think the 11th Circuit is sympathetic to the city.
Alicia?
Here's my concern, and I've come on this platform and said I support the training center. I actually think this issue, though, is not about the training center right now. This is about the fact that they got the signatures, and I was one of those people who said on here, it's a high bar, I don't think you're going to meet it, but they did, and they got almost twice the number.
But they haven't been all verified yet.
They haven't been verified, but here's my concern. We're not sending the right message, right? This is also about our democracy. It's also about having people's voices be heard. And so what bothers me, some of my friends who are at the city, it appears that they keep moving the goalpost. And yes, some of this is about the court decisions, but at the end of the day, I think I'm now at the position where I support the people having a vote here and having a say. We're talking about 60 million taxpayer dollars, and we have to think beyond just the training center and think about democracy. What does this mean for people participating in the process? They followed the process. They did everything they were told to do, and so I think it's time to verify these and let them have a vote.
Well, Martha, now Liliana Bakhtiari, Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, says she's considering introducing legislation to put the issue on the ballot. I mean, can she do that, and would it go anywhere since the funding for the project passed by a council vote, of 10-4?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she's just saying something that people want to hear, and I agree that it's about democracy, but part of the democracy is following court rulings. Part of your democracy is that, hey, we've got to put this on hold until this other court. You had the right to appeal. That's part of our democracy too. The people had the right to appeal. Now it's being appealed. I mean, it just really sounds like, and it really bothered me what the protester, or whatever you want to call the organizer, said, is that we've gone through all this, and if we don't get our way, we're going to go to the streets. That's not the way a democracy is supposed to work. That's not the way a republic is supposed to work. You exhaust all your avenues, and then you have to accept what happened, and you live to fight another day.
Well, Theron, some of these activists are accusing Democratic leaders of turning their backs on them and saying Atlanta Democrats are using voter suppression tactics to silence the more than 116,000 voters who signed these petitions.
It's funny that Alicia and I are on this show together, because I sympathize with these petitioners, but she also knows that we have disagreed a lot over 20 years. And I understand what she's saying as far as like democracy, right? But at the same time, to Martha's point, is that, look, this mayor, let's just bring Andre Dickinson to this. This guy has been very, very considerate and has been very understanding. I mean, there's folks on the inside who want him to come out more forcefully and just shut this down. And what he said, and I don't want to misquote him, is like, look, in good faith, I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to express their First Amendment. And guys, let's not remember, these council meetings went on until 5 o'clock in the morning. Everybody, almost 1,000 protesters and petitioners got a chance to voice their concerns. So now let's move into where you're getting at, the landscape in Atlanta politics. This is what keeps me up at night, right? The coalition that has elected almost in 50 years, consecutive black mayors, good politicians, white, Hispanic, and Asian, now even LGBTQ, Iranian, transgender, binary elected officials. I mean, this is Atlanta. I mean, you have a sort of this microcosm of all of these different individuals who want to represent their constituents in public service. If you have this group of progressive leaders, and I want to call them that, right? A lot of them are leaders and they're petitioners, start threatening the Democratic establishment. That is something that I think that we need to pay very, very close attention to, is because it has been an integral part of our success, not only in this city, but in this region. Now, I'm not saying they're right for what they're doing, but I do think we need to really understand that we got to figure out this.
Phil.
I think you're misusing the word progressive in this case. I think they're very regressive. How does it feel, the far left harassing, Democrat leadership? I think that let's let the process go out.
Alicia, what about, this accusing Democrats of turning their backs on the activists?
Listen, I have been in the crosshairs a time or two when it comes to my own party. And I understand, and I look forward to talking to you off camera about this, but.
Oh, why wait? Just do it now.
I understand how they feel in terms of wanting higher level Democrats to really speak out about this, particularly when it comes to giving them a voice. I do think, though, that it's dangerous when you make those kinds of threats because we can't have Trump and folks like that get elected. And we've got them at party level, at state legislative offices. And so we have to be careful about the threats that we make. But I do think that Democratic leaders need to pay attention to what is being said, because to Theron's point, a lot of these progressive leaders that we're talking about are the ones who are knocking on doors for us. They're organizing people. We need them. And so they need to come to the table and have some real conversation about making this happen.
Martha, final thoughts on kind of what this political fallout could be?
Well, they're going to have to wait and see what happens. And you know what? It is, to Phil's point, I think it is kind of interesting. You're seeing the same kind of splits that Republicans are having to deal with. There's all this focus on Republican splits, but it's over on the Democrat side too.
Especially when you hear these activists talk about voter suppression.
I know.
We heard that before.
I'd hate to see the Democratic vote drop.
No, but again, I think about this, guys. summarize, and I have to quote the mayor on this. If you look at overall crime rates, and I know Phil checks it daily, crime is down in Atlanta. I hate quoting stats because they can go back up. You know, homicides are down, rapes are down.
Like inflation.
Right, inflation.
Hate to quote it.
But one thing that's consistent, in order to keep the numbers down, we need well-trained women and men on our police force and firefighters. That's the one thing I think I got to come down on is that.
And the duly elected people of the Atlanta City Council voted 10-4.
Yeah, 11-4.
For the 11-4 for this, and on multiple occasions, and there was an election in between where they were elected. So
and let's shut down this anti-police rhetoric from the Democratic side. So thank you, Democrats.
That I agree with. We support police and safety.
All right, we'll all agree on that. So let's move on. Coming up, Governor Brian Kemp uses his powers to suspend Georgia's gas tax again. We'll discuss after the break.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Well, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp declared a state of emergency and temporarily suspended the state's gas tax in an effort to reduce the impact of inflation. In a press release, Kemp claimed that his actions were in response to policies coming at the federal level, saying that President Joe Biden has caused Georgians to feel the brunt of negative economic conditions. Martha, start with you here.
Well, I suggested this a couple of months ago that why not, we've got plenty of money coming in. Why not do this? It really helps people, because what is the biggest cost that impacts people on a day-to-day basis is their fuel costs. And we are still a state where people have to drive. Okay, and we'll talk more about public transportation later on in the program, but people drive, and this is going to impact them positively. So I say hooray to the governor.
Is this a political decision as well, Alicia?
It still helps people.
I'm sure it is. I'm not going down that road. I don't think this has anything to do with Biden and any federal policies. This is about the production of oil and supply and demand. And so I'm grateful for this little break. I will gladly take advantage of it, but this is not about politics. This is about helping working families.
Phil?
Biden has a lot to do with energy and oil. He's insulted the Saudis. He goes after Putin, rightly or wrongly. He's buying oil from Venezuela, which is an outrage. Governor Kemp was right. This is due to inflationary and damaging Bidenomics. And the middle class is hurting. And I thought the Democrats were for the middle class.
All right, well, after the deaths of 10 inmates in Fulton County custody this year, Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitt says they're considering proposals from 2 firms to move some inmates to private for-profit detention facilities outside of Atlanta. One of those facilities is in Georgia, the other in Mississippi, that can accommodate up to 700 Fulton County inmates. Theron, until a new jail can be approved and built, could this be the best alternative? I mean, it's going to be costly, though.
Well, I think if you talk to a lot of county leaders, they say that this is not a long-term solution. I don't want to speak for my other panelists on the panel, but I think we can all agree that we do need to build a new jail. I mean, you look at the conditions, they're just horrific. But what the sheriff and the chairman are doing is what y'all have been calling for. I mean, we've been pretty critical of this Fulton County Commission, is that they're talking.
Do something.
Right. And they've come together, and from what I've heard from my sources, that these 2 facilities, they were visited the last couple weeks, and that they're doing thorough evaluations to make sure that you don't put these inmates into worse conditions.
Yeah, because there were some issues with private facilities.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And then it's also, you put them in these private facilities as well, as Martha pointed out. So I think this is a good short-term solution, but ultimately, I think you'll see more staffing, more people at the jail to try to make sure this jail is run efficiently.
Well, I remember when the city promised that the jail would have 700 inmates from Fulton County. This is not happening. Let's get the mayor and city council to stop these roadblocks. Let's fill up those 700 slots. It helps Sheriff Pat Labatt. And also, I'm glad the sheriff it's a stopgap measure, but he's looking to counties on the Florida-Georgia line or over in Alabama to try to house these inmates. Good for him. It's a short-term solution.
All right, I'm going to move on because 2 of the defendants charged with conspiring to overturn the 2020 presidential election will go to trial October 23rd. Both Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbrough demanded speedy trials. Meanwhile, Georgia Republicans have started a defense fund to help pay legal fees for the 3 GOP electors charged in the case. Martha, this is a pretty big development in this case that 2 of the folks will go to trial in October.
Yeah, and it's a little bit concerning because the way RICO works is you got to try everybody together, right? And so just the fact you're splitting out a couple means there's some cracks in how this is going to be handled. So we're going to watch that. And then, of course, you know, as far as the defense fund goes, I think that the Georgia GOP's been on. I mean, I don't agree with it, but they've been on record for a long time that they're going to raise money and help defend these folks, and so that's what they're doing.
Alicia.
I was quite entertained when I saw the invitation for the Banks County event. It just gives me that clown car feeling, right? Of all of these people just coming out. You've got election deniers and the legislator who wants a special session, and then Burt Jones all of a sudden is invited. And according to his team, you know, they didn't know all the people who were invited at first before they took the invitation. And so this is nuts. I don't understand why they've committed to doing this. You broke the law. Allow them to be held accountable and go through the process. It's embarrassing, and I'm guessing that there are Republicans behind the scenes wishing that this was not happening, that this Banks event would be gone, and all of this would go away. But good luck. Have a good time, and I'm looking forward to seeing this circus.
Well, I think luck has been on the side of President Trump. I know you don't like that. This was a victory for President Trump. He won't be tried in Fulton County in October. It'll be pushed back. Maybe after the general election, which it should be. It's election interference. I laugh when you talk about voter suppression. You never really talked about Stacey Abrams on this program, who made all sorts of accusations that were untrue. I do think, Martha, you know, as a military guy, you don't leave your wounded on the field. And
right.
So I think that you ought to support these people with Legal Defense Fund. Some of these people, as I've pointed out on this show, were simply lawyers trying to help their clients.
Well, why won't Trump do that? This is his conspiracy.
He said
he's responsible
he is funding
for
it.
all of this
You're
mess.
not following the news.
He's got millions of dollars that he's raising, but he won't share it with the same people who are responsible.
He
for
said
this.
he would be fundraising, and he is, for legal defense.
He's
You're not
done
following
one
the news.
fundraiser for
Theron,
Giuliani.
let me ask you this. Martha had mentioned that there could be some cracks in the case because if you're trying two of the defendants and not all of them at once at a RICO case. I mean, October 23rd, it's right around the corner. If Fani Willis doesn't get a conviction on those two cases, what does that do for the rest of the cases?
Well, if you listen to what the district attorney said this week, is that, look, she said she was prepared for any and every scenario. So what she's saying is that this was a possibility that this speedy trial request could be moved up. So I just hope, and I think that she'll be ready to make sure that she deals with this. But back to this whole thing about this Banks County event, I agree totally with Alicia. You know, the Republican Party in Georgia always talks about personal responsibility, right? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Now they're outsourcing fees to constituents and hardworking Georgians to pay for these folks who should basically have thought about this, as Alicia said. Now, they're innocent until proven guilty, but when they went out here and basically tried to promote a narrative, a fake narrative, that this election was stolen, these are the consequences.
You don't know it's fake.
It was fake.
Well,
the election wasn't stolen.
my biggest concern about the whole case is the lawyers and the people that are in this group because of things that they said, the opinions they held. There are free speech and legal counsel kind of issues that are going to be, I think the case is going to fall apart because of that.
All right, I got to wrap it there. Coming up, will Gwinnett County leaders give it another go when it comes to a penny sales tax for transit? We'll discuss next.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Gwinnett County leaders are talking about another penny sales tax referendum to expand transit. Voters have said no twice in recent years to an expansion of MARTA heavy rail into the county. Gwinnett leaders say the new proposal will include more bus routes, microtransit, and leave out MARTA. Theron, let's talk about this because you and I had worked on this issue years ago. We saw the no votes pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Could something like this pass, though, without a heavy rail expansion?
Well, the way they're sort of phrasing it is this micro-transit sort of proposal, and right now it's going to be more buses. And I think we all can agree that, you know, with the you got to give a shout out to the Peach Pass line. I just got a new car and I'm waiting for my new sticker to come in because I don't want to violate the law, Phil. I know people were telling me, but you know, but I think that there are constituents in Gwinnett County who want to expand transit. Now the question is, Laura, you and I both know this, it's all about how it's worded on the ballot, and you got to follow the money. I mean, I think this proposal really won't be done until maybe 2033, and it's a significant amount of money that's going to be basically put out to the Gwinnett residents. But also you got to look at the commissioners. I mean, how are they going to sell this? What team are you going to bring together? I'm a little disappointed, full disclosure, I do work for MARTA, but I'm disappointed that MARTA is not included in this because I think that MARTA has improved significantly, and if we truly want to like expand transit in a region, in a county that's growing significantly, MARTA has to play a part in that.
Martha.
And I agree with that MARTA should have been a part of it. But one thing I will say, that one thing we're doing up in Hall County, we're doing almost like a ride share that's this microtransit kind of thing that is somewhat successful, and it gives people that kind of personal. They can just use an app and call and get a small bus to come and pick them up. It's not big buses. So I think it sounds a little bit like they want to get to where it's more personal, not just bus lines everywhere. But I do think it should be more comprehensive. And look, America's got to get to the point where we have better rail to get people from one place to another. But the people that run the freight are never going to give up the rail line. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Cobb County elections officials say they found 18 uncounted ballots from the 2022 elections this week and reported these findings to the state elections board. Cobb officials say they found the ballots when they were moving items from one room to another. Phil, 18 ballots wouldn't really change the outcome of the races, but it does give some ammunition to the folks who say that there are flaws in the system. And also, because I know you're for the paper ballots, but isn't this a case in point that they could fall through the cracks or wind up where they shouldn't?
No system is perfect. What we have to do is we have to improve the election systems we have. I would hope everybody on the panel would agree with it. This isn't fake news, I hope, Theron. You're not going to accuse it of that. They're actually, when people question, and I know you Democrats questioned back in 2018, I wish I had tapes of both of you talking, supporting Stacey Abrams with all of this, but yeah, this is good. We need to be checking on all 159 counties to see if we can have safe, secure elections. I hope the Democrats would agree with me on that.
That's a good Democrat talking point. Safe, secure elections.
It's always been a Republican talking point also with election integrity. Write that down.
I forgot
Alicia, these ballots were found in your home county.
They were, and it's the revisionist history for me. But I do live in Cobb, and whether it's 18 votes or 1 vote, unacceptable and very disappointing. That's not how we do things in Cobb. So as you probably know, the director left earlier in the year. It made me wonder if this is perhaps why she left. And so they're searching for a new director. Happy about that. I appreciate the fact that they self-reported to the State Department of Elections as soon as they found these ballots. I want the state to continue to be involved because we have to be held accountable and we have to count every vote, period.
Martha?
No, every vote needs to be counted. It's kind of, you wonder what else is out there, but you've got to fix along the way. No system is perfect. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of paper ballots. I think that if you look at the process that we have now is very secure, but it can always be more secure, and that's what we should always be going for.
Okay, real quickly, I want to get to this topic. Atlanta's hometown airline making changes to its loyalty program, and many are not happy. If you look at social media, you'll see it. Delta Airlines says it will look at how much customers spend on flights rather than miles traveled when considering Medallion Elite status. Delta is also limiting how many times most passengers can enter the Skies Club in a year. Theron, you're the frequent flyer, I think, on this panel.
I am a proud Diamond Medallion member.
Will you be?
Well, hold on. I'm looking in the camera. Ed, Bastion, I need my 360. But no, I kind of like, look, we're spoiled, right? We're in Atlanta. And because everyone here, I think 90+% of the people who fly out of Atlanta, probably even 98% fly Delta. And so, yes, Lori, when I'm walking, rushing, because, you know, I come in hot most times.
We know.
And I see those, no, don't do that. I got you into that. I had your badge. But no, I think that Delta's got to figure out a way. Okay, everyone now can get the credit card. People fly a lot, and then also people can pay to get in the lounges. And so, as a person who likes to go in the lounge and get a drink before I board my flight, or even if I have a delay, yeah, I'm spoiled. But the thing that concerns me is the MQDs and the MQMs. And so now you got to get more of those. And so I'm a little upset, but Ed, I want my 360.
I got to tell you, it was real quick. I got to tell you, I do think that the Sky Lounges have been overcrowded, and I'm kind of happy they're doing it. So I'm going to get in trouble for that. But I just thought
the funniest comment I saw was somebody said, "This is what happens when you put Tom Brady on the advisory board."
That's funny. Real quick, I just want to say, a friend of mine texted me the other day, and he says on Delta, they don't hang your coats up anymore except in first class. What's happening to customer service?
Well, all right, we'll find out maybe in Winners and Losers. Stay tuned, everyone.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
All right, Martha, we'll start with you.
So, winner this week, of course, UGA. They're doing great. They're going to continue doing great, and the Braves clinched.
Yes.
So that was a great game. And then my loser is President Biden, who said African Americans, Hispanics, people without high school degrees. He made it sound like African Americans and Hispanics didn't have a high school diploma. He just keeps stumbling over it, so he's my loser.
Aaron?
First of all, I want to wish my mother a happy birthday. Alicia's known me. I call her Sugar. It's her birthday, so Mom, love you. You know, Phil and Martha, I go around town, a lot of people ask me, so how do you deal with Phil Kent? How do you deal with Martha? How do you deal with Janelle and Brian Robinson? I said, I have a praying mama. And then my last winner is going to be Dr. Jill Biden, who was in town this week at Emory University to look at some cancer research initiative with the Biden administration. She also hosted, was part of a fundraiser that was hosted by Comer and Sally Yates at her home. It was a great event that I attended.
All right, Phil.
You know, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm was in Georgia the other day on this ballyhooed EV tour, and she went into Grovetown, and lo and behold, the Chargers weren't there for her entourage. Oh, how horrible. And one of her aides, this is outrageous, actually took their gas-powered car and blocked somebody, a family with a baby, that couldn't charge their car. What a mess. And they think they're elites and they're above everybody. Also, my winner, Kelly Loeffler, the former U.S. Senator with Greater Georgia, she had a screening of this great movie, very powerful, emotional movie, The Sound of Freedom, about human trafficking.
All right, Alicia.
I have two quick winners. One is DeKalb County School District. We've been critical about them, but their superintendent seems to be doing a great job moving very quickly. They've filled most of their teaching positions that they had open at the beginning of the year. He's doing great work, so kudos to him and the board for supporting him. And secondly, I want to congratulate the Woodruff Library and the Atlanta University Center. Tomorrow or this weekend, they will open up the Lowry exhibit, which I'm very excited about, speaking on Saturday, but more importantly, just excited about the exhibit.
All right, sounds great. See you again next week, everyone. Thanks for watching.